Welcome back to Girls Next Level, everybody. Bridget, how was your week?
It was good. Celebrated Thanksgiving.
How was it? What was your favorite thing you ate?
It was good. You know what I loved about it this time is we didn't do a traditional Thanksgiving. I'm not I know this is unfavorable to people, but I don't love Thanksgiving food. Like, I'm not a big turkey person. I mean, I can have a little bit, but I'm not like interested in turkey in any way. I don't like stuffing. I don't like the sweet potatoes with all that like marshmallow stuff on top. I don't do cranberries. Like,
Do you like pie?
I like pie. Well, and I'm picky about pie too. I love pumpkin pie, but I don't eat the pecan or pecan, however you want to pronounce it.
That's Zach's favorite. I always make him that every year.
The pecan?
Yeah.
How do you say pecan or pecan?
I say it both ways. I go back and forth. It just depends on what my mood is.
Yeah, I never know. And like some people get really like testy about it. So I'm like pecan, however you want to say it.
Well, I think one of them is like the Southern way to say it. Pecan. That's like the Southern, I think. Correct us if we're wrong, guys.
So we did a non-traditional. I mean, it wasn't so anti-traditional, but it wasn't like Thanksgiving. So it was, we had a honey baked ham, which I do love those, and macaroni and cheese, which I love that.
Yum.
Creamed spinach, I don't do, but everyone else loves that.
Yeah.
And then like, cornbread and crescent rolls, and then pie, pumpkin and, pecan.
Yum.
and then a whole bunch of like appetizers during the day. That's actually my favorite part, like all the like appetizer stuff. So
yeah, I like
snacks,
that too.
Chips and dip and like the little puff pastries.
Deviled eggs.
We had those.
Yeah, those are the best.
It's funny because I don't love eggs. I know people are going, Jesus, she's so picky. I don't love eggs, but Nick's mom does a really good deviled egg.
They're good.
So I always have to have at least one. But the guys, they eat like them by the half dozens or more.
Yeah, I would if I had a bunch around for sure.
How about you? What was your Thanksgiving like?
Well, the day before Thanksgiving, we had a big baking day. So like I made the pecan pie for Zach. And then the kids made, Rainbow has a specialty pie that she invented years ago when she was really little. It's a strawberry pineapple pie. So we did that. And Forrest did a pumpkin pirate pie. And then, on Thanksgiving Day, we had it over at my kid's dad's house, and he has just a ton of people over, like a big Thanksgiving event, and he had it catered and stuff. So it was fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
And do you go there for Thanksgiving then?
I do. Yeah. We're getting to a point where we're starting to like split up the holidays because we've been divorced for like 4 years now. But at Thanksgiving, I still do.
I think that's so cool that you guys are able to do that.
Yeah, I'm really, really lucky because people ask me for advice all the time on like co-parenting and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I just got really lucky because the thing is like, you always want to do what's best for the kid, but I know not everybody has that going on. Like there might be a partner who's like angry or bitter or not wanting to do what's best for the kids. But I'm lucky with me and Pasquale. We just both want what's best for the kids. So everything else has always been put aside.
Yeah. Yeah, so. That's great. Like, later in my life, like my, mom and my stepdad and my dad were all able to do things. And like now we're all able to do things. But there was a time where that was like not cool, you know? And I know so many people where that is not cool. They would rather be struck by lightning than like see their ex for Thanksgiving, you know?
That's so great that your family kind of came together though.
Yeah.
Like Parent Trap almost, like not quite, but almost.
I mean, to the point where we can actually all go on vacations together to like visit my brother. My dad will fly with us and we all stay in the same hotel, like do the same trip.
I love that. So you guys, we did a really fun interview for you today. We brought on CARMELLA DECESARE Garcia. She was Playmate of the Year in 2004. She went on to work for WWE for a while. And we really wanted to bring her on because the last episode we reviewed for you guys was season 1, episode 4, What Happens in Vegas. And we went to Vegas for her birthday.
Yeah. And it was a fun episode. And I was like, I miss her so much. Like, we need to talk to her. And then I started talking to her and then I'm like, she has to be on the show.
I know. One thing I love about this podcast is it's been such a great excuse to get back in touch with everybody.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, it doesn't seem like it's been as long as it has been. And it's so interesting how you can talk to somebody you haven't talked to or seen in a really long time and just pick up where you left off. Like, no time has passed.
So you guys, we had an amazing conversation with Carmella. We talked all about her time as a Playmate, Playmate of the Year, being on a reality show called Who Wants to Be a Playboy Playmate, working for the WWE, all the things. So let's get started.
Carmella,
Hi.
thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that we got in touch, and I'm excited to be on.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. So we have so many questions for you, and we've had so many fans that have submitted questions for you too. People want to know what you're up to. People have questions about so many different aspects of when you were there. So I thought we'd just go over like everything from the start. Like,
Okay, it's been a long time.
how did Playboy even get on your radar in the first place?
It was so random for me. I was doing just local modeling in Cleveland, which is where I'm from. And it was right at the start of reality TV when the Who Wants to Be a Playboy Centerfold came out. And they had like a random audition downtown. And I know they were going to 12 cities around the country. And I was probably 18 at the time. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go try out. And my dad looked at me and he was like, with what? Like,
With what?
Yeah, that's what he said. He goes, with what? And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do this. And he obviously thought I had no shot at it. So anyway, we went downtown and I tried out, and it progressed to where I'd get through one set of interviews and I'd move on to the next round. And then at that point, he was like, oh shit, like there's this may be a possibility. And I finally got on the show. And that was a different story in and of itself. But I got on the show and flew out to California. And it was, being from such a small town, landing at LAX was the most intimidating, nerve-wracking. I was in a constant state of anxiety. But it ended up not working out that time particularly, but it ended up working out down the road. And I never really went back home other than to visit.
Wait, okay, so you make it. How many processes was it to get to that, get flown to LA?
Probably like 3 or 4 sets of interviews where you took some photos and then they came to my apartment. I was living in like a 1-bedroom apartment at the time. They came to my apartment. There was another time where they met my family, and then I advanced and moved on to LA, which was super, as much as I wanted to do it, I was very unsure. And it was really intimidating competing against the other girls. So it just wasn't for me at the time. And I ended up flying back home to Cleveland and not going on at that point, but then coming out for a mansion party later, which pretty much kicked off my whole Playboy career from that point on.
So when you came out to be on this show, I remember I was there living at the mansion when you guys were filming the show across the street. And it was all very secretive. Like, we didn't know what was going on. And just so the listeners know, Who Wants to Be a Playboy Playmate was kind of like America's Next Top Model, but for Playmates. And there were so many, beautiful women over there. And I remember, Carmella, you early on were a favorite of everybody's, because I do remember like seeing all the pictures, and like Hef and the editors would have meetings over at the main house and stuff. And everybody was so bummed when you decided to leave.
Oh, I was so bummed when I left. I felt like I had made a mistake, but at the same time, I was so young and I was so scared. And I felt like I just needed to be true to myself, but I was very regretful after I left. And I was grateful that Hef had invited me up to a mansion party, because then I could kind of really see what Playboy was about, because it was a little crazy with like kind of competing with the girls. I felt like people were doing things to get on the show that I didn't want to do. And it made me super uncomfortable. And I felt like a fish out of water. I was completely out of my element, but then regretful at the same time. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have gone back and then, been able to be a centerfold and continue on with Playboy.
Were the other girls pretty friendly, or were some of them like really competitive and not wanting to be nice to anybody?
I felt like they were friendly, but I guess being from such a small town, I was super conservative, and I always hesitate to talk about this kind of stuff, because I feel like today is a very sensitive day and age, sensitive time to talk about things. And so I never want to say the wrong thing and sound judgmental, because I'm not. I'm very, very free spirited. And I'm like, I could care less what anybody does. I just, but speaking from my own personal experience, like the girls were kind of making out in the hot tub. And so I didn't want to do those things and then, you know, feel embarrassed in front of my family or embarrass my family. And so it was a little bit tricky, and I was just uncomfortable all in all. And it just, I didn't feel like I could bring to the table what some of the other girls could. And, I don't know, I guess being in Playboy wasn't about that, but at the time that's all I was so hyper focused on that. And it was more about the competition, and I probably just wasn't ready to compete.
No, I understand what you're saying, because it's not about being judgmental even. It's just sometimes your own boundaries are different from other people's. And sometimes you can feel like you're a fish out of water, or, you know.
At that time, I'm like, I really want to get into the magazine being authentic and being myself. And I felt like if I stretched that and pushed those boundaries, then I wasn't staying true to myself, and it just defeated the whole purpose. So yeah, for me, it was just too much. And it was a hard decision to leave.
Yeah. And there's a thing too, when you're on reality TV, sometimes there's an atmosphere, like even on Girls Next Door, it felt this way too, even though it wasn't a competition show. Sometimes you feel just this competitive atmosphere from other people where they really want to make it all about them, and you don't know how to even talk or really make your presence known without being pushy or without feeling like you're competing. It's a really weird thing to balance. So I can imagine that would have just felt awkward.
Yeah. And then you kind of question too, like, who am I, right? Like, what do I want to portray? Like, I want to be authentic. I want to be genuine. I want to be myself, but it's also television, and you're trying to be the best version of yourself, but you're also trying to kind of make it at the same time. And it just becomes the lines get blurred. And so you kind of just don't know what to do. And then at the beginning of that, I felt like it wasn't so scripted, whereas I feel like, you know, as reality TV evolved, it lost its authenticity. It just became so scripted, you know, where in the very beginning, it was more organic. And I liked that. I just wasn't ready for it. And I didn't know I didn't know. I'm like, who am I? Like, what do I want to portray? And it's like, who knows who the fuck they are at, you know, I'm 18 years old at that point. It's
exactly.
Like, I didn't know who I was, but I know that I didn't want to do anything that I regretted publicly.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's really smart. Because also you have no idea what they're going to do with that footage or how they're going to edit you.
Right.
You know,
that's another thing that's tricky. I think that's one of the biggest problems now, especially even doing interviews. You hesitate to say something because anything that you say can be taken out of context or turned around. And it is scary because, I mean, you'll take a lot of criticism. It's a very, very sensitive time.
So then you leave the house. How does it go from there to becoming back to the mansion ever again?
I'm trying to remember because I feel like it was like 100 years ago, but I think I believe that Hef invited me to a mansion party, and I had regrets leaving. It was an internal war. Like I was struggling with myself because I wanted so badly. Here is this young girl. I came from a small town and I wanted to make it big, you know, like I wanted to grow. I love Cleveland, Ohio. Like I love the city. I love the history. I love the sports. I love where I'm from. I love the people, the camaraderie, the loyalty, the honesty. Like there's such authenticity in Cleveland, and I'm such a huge promoter of it. I love the city. But I didn't want to stay forever. I wanted to be able to experience larger cities and places outside of home. And so I had this just internal battle where I wanted to go and I wanted to make it. But I didn't want to compromise myself. Like I wanted to make it authentically. I wanted to make it and just be me. And so I think it was Hef inviting me to a mansion party.
Do you remember what party it was?
It was probably like Halloween or Midsummer's. It was so, I can't even describe how I felt about the parties. It was so different than anything I'd ever experienced and where I came from. And it was exciting. It was surreal. It was completely surreal. So at that point, it was very difficult to turn back. And I don't know if you know this, but he asked me if I had second thoughts, and I said yes. And so I was going to do a test shoot in LA that same weekend that I went to the party. And so I flew out there, went to the party, had a blast, had a whole photo shoot, I think set up with Arnie Freitag and, Sarah, or it was Kimberly. Somebody was there, the makeup, hair, everything. And I bailed. I bailed again.
I didn't know that.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I felt like the biggest loser. I had such an anxiety attack. Here he hired everybody and they're all sitting there waiting like, are you going to get to the studio? And I'm like, I'm on a plane right now. Like, I'm headed back to Ohio. Oh, no. And I went home and I'm shocked that he had enough patience to allow me to even come back. And so then the worst part was when I decided again, I think I wrote half a letter saying I really would appreciate the opportunity and I'd love to shoot. And I said, but not in LA. And he must have been thinking like, who is this nutbag? Like, what do you mean not in LA? Like, this is where people go to do, you're shooting a centerfold. And so I'm like, I don't want to go to LA. And so he's like, all right, well, you'll go to Chicago. And so I went to Chicago and I spent a whole week on Lakeshore. I shot this beautiful centerfold. They put $1 million in diamonds on me. They had security come in and put.
Where is this centerfold? I need to see it.
He threw it in the garbage. He threw it in the trash. He did. True story. Threw it in the trash.
I just passed out.
Oh, I was dead. So and you know how grueling it is. Most of America doesn't recognize that shooting a centerfold, I'm not going to say it's the hardest thing in the world. It's not the easiest thing in the world. You are stuck in a position, in the same position for 8 hours a day for about 7 days. And by the time your shoot is done, you can't walk, your back hurts, you're kinked. It's like you can't sleep. There's so many things that are going through your head. It's exciting. It's terrifying. It's everything. So they bring in all these diamonds and securities, putting them on me and taking them off me. And Hef takes one look at it and he throws it in the trash. And he goes, it's too old for her. She's like the girl next door. She needs to come to LA. And after spending a week shooting the centerfold, I'm like, I am not about to go home right now. I'm going to LA. And I did. I flew out there and I thought, I'm not going to test this man any further than this because he's going to tell me to go screw myself. And I'm going to be in Cleveland for the rest of my life, which wouldn't have been a bad thing. But like I said, I wanted more.
Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like shooting in Chicago? Because they weren't shooting very many centerfolds when we were there. And we're so curious because we don't know what the studio was like there or anything.
It was nice, but it was old school. Like I felt like it was having a BlackBerry when everyone else has an iPhone. It just wasn't, they weren't current. They weren't caught up with the times. Like the makeup was, and I don't want to criticize anyone, but it was so heavy and kind of like 90-ish. Like it wasn't caught up with the current times. Like once I didn't understand it until I went to LA. And then when I got there and I started working with Kimberly and Sarah Cranham, it just was a completely different ballgame. And the photographers, Steve Wada, Arnie Freitag, they're all so incredible. And there are a few of those photos on the internet. And when you look at them and compare, it's like night and day.
Wow. You know what I remember about your centerfold that they had to retouch out is it had a Britney Spears poster in the background. Do you remember that?
Did they retouch that? I can't remember.
Yeah, because they had to take it out just because it was a Britney Spears photo and they didn't have like the permission to use it. So they put something else, like some collegiate thing.
Oh, I didn't. Once I saw the centerfold, I wasn't thrilled because especially at that age, like I wanted to be older. Like I wanted to be sexy and I wanted to be a woman, and you're just not. You're 18 and 19 and he had this whole locker room, situation going on, and I'm like, I don't want to wear like socks and eat pizza in this photo here. They had me like with a Sprite can and I'm like eating pizza and then I'm in a bowling alley for the Playmate of the Year.
I thought they were so cute.
They're cute though. They are, right? They're cute.
I love them.
I don't want to be cute. I want to be hot. Like I want to be Carmen Electra right now.
Yeah, that's how it is. I feel like when you're in your late teens, early 20s, or at least it was like this for me too. Like I wanted to be super glammed up. Like I thought if you weren't in the full hair and makeup and jewelry and stuff, then it wasn't that hot. But then you get older, you can look back and really appreciate the beauty of just youth.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, totally. Because now I look back and it's like, you know, in the later years, I did photo shoots and they're like, no makeup, like less is more. It makes you look older. And I'm like, hold on, this is like you know, it's a little tough, but especially, I mean, and for me getting older, I turned 40 this year and that was super hard for me. And I'm sure I'm going to look back when I'm 50 and be like, I should have shut up. Yeah. But it was very, I just wasn't quite ready for it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I always have like this list of everything I wanted to do. And if it's not all checked off by a certain age, I'm like,
yeah, totally.
Carmella, I remember, and I don't know which occasion that you were out with us, but it was the first time you like came out to the club with us and we were standing by each other. I think we sat by each other in the limo and then we were standing by each other outside and I'm pretty sure it was Barfly. And I remember you being like, I'm so nervous. Like, what is going on right now? Like, because we're lining up to tell all these pictures and you're like, how many pictures are we going to take? I'm so nervous. What's happening?
It was bizarre. It was so much. Talk about like one extreme to the next, being from this teeny tiny town where we go to the bar in our sweatpants and Uggs. And it's just, and all of a sudden I'm, you know, at these nightclubs and on these like red carpets. And it was so intimidating. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I was thinking of this story earlier. And it's funny you say Barfly because I think that's where it was. And there was a bunch of us at the time. There was probably like 9 of us. And, you know, we'd stand behind like the red rope, like they'd have us all roped off and security was like, had lined everything. And then people would just stare at us like deer in headlights. Like everybody would just stare. And I'm
like a wax museum.
Yes. And I'm like, this is like insane. Like what is going on here? And all of a sudden 2 of Hef's girlfriends like start like going at it. I almost died. And I'm like fish out of water. I'm at this club with Hugh Hefner and all these like amazing blondes. People are staring at us. We got like a red rope and shit. And I'm like, and all of a sudden these 2 start going at it. And I look over at Holly and Holly is just having the time of her life. Like this did not even faze you. You're dancing.
You know what?
Like,
I don't think I saw it though. Cause I feel like I would have remembered, cause I don't remember that happening like at the club. I feel like I just must have been on another level, but I really didn't get along with those girls also. So I was probably just like this, like blinders on.
I mean, you were just dancing and having the time of your life. And I remember looking at you and I was scared because Hef took both of their heads and like pushed them together.
Ew.
And I'm like, this was like a shit show. I'm like, these people are like taking pictures of us and he's so angry. And it was the only time I've ever seen him angry.
Wait, I'm sort of remembering this, Carmella.
Yes.
That's crazy. I remember the heads being pushed together.
Yes, he pushed her head. And I was like, and these people are just like, taking pictures probably with these like throwaway disposable cameras. Cause I don't think we had iPhones or anything at the time. And I'm just like, I come from Cleveland and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I was scared to death. I didn't know what was happening.
Well, that was just normal behavior from those people.
Oh, it was a total, like a definition of shit show.
Oh my God.
And Holly, remember how, I think it was last week's episode when you were talking about how a lot of times when they were on their ups or when they were on their ups, you were on your downs. And when they were on their downs, you were on your up.
Yeah. I think I said that on one of our Patreon episodes. There was this dynamic with one of the mean girls and she and I just did not get along, like direct rivalry. Like she wanted me out of the main girlfriend spot. She wanted me replaced. And every time we would go out, depending on who, like we would always be in opposite moods. Like if I was in a good mood for whatever reason, she was pissed. Or if she was in a good mood, I was pissed. Like it never equaled out or was the same. It was like a seesaw. It was like always opposite.
But
Never
I feel
failed.
like that might have been what was going on that night. She was in a bad mood and having like a problem with somebody else in the group. And so you were like on top of the world, like having a great
You were
night.
so happy and just like, it didn't even faze you at all. Like you handled it so well. And I was so afraid and I'm like, what do I do right now? And it's, and every time we'd walk out of the club, there was like TMZ, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, we're going to be on TMZ right now. Like, I don't know.
Do you remember? Okay. Do you remember the first iteration of TMZ? It was called Hollywood Uncensored, and it was on E. And they would it would be people with the cameras. Yeah. Yes.
But they'd be waiting for us every time we got out of the club. And I'm just like, oh, we cannot be getting in fights with each other right now. Like, we're going to fight other people. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Oh, it was a trip.
What was the whole, I know you talked about how it was like to test in Chicago, but what was it like testing in LA? And what was how did you feel? Did you feel I know we talked about it being uncomfortable and stuff, but did you feel glamorous and excited? And
I did. I mean, I felt glamorous, and it just was a really exciting experience altogether. But I felt like I always wanted to be a Playmate, as an adult. And I just felt like the whole theme of my, whether it was my centerfold or the Playmate of the Year, it was just this young college girl thing. And so I always, on the cover of the music issue, so I was April 2003, and then Carmen Electra, that was a music issue, and Carmen Electra was on the cover. And I felt so envious of her because she had the most unreal pictorial in that magazine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why can't I be Carmen Electra? I'm like,
Carmen's pictorials were always sick.
Oh, so amazing. They were so amazing.
Yes. She is the most photogenic, beautiful. She is the epitome of just smoke show.
And I remember back then too, we used to see her in the Pussycat Dolls and stuff when they were at the Roxy, and she was so stunning in person as well. And not all the famous bombshells were. She really stood out to me as somebody who
You're right. Looked
the
Pussycat Dolls. She
amazing in person. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
That was such a cute show. And I so wished we could be in it. I was like, oh, I want to be in that show so bad.
I totally forgot about that. All those fun times. We had so much fun in Vegas. Vegas was just, I feel like in 2004, I must have gone to Vegas 30 times.
That's so fun.
Maybe more. I think I bought 2 condos there. I don't know if I ever stayed in them once. I always made it to the real world suite, never left.
Yeah.
It was the most fun. I mean, just the people, I don't know, my personal experience with Playboy, I feel like we met so many fun people. I literally had the time of my life. How often do you watch TV and you're like, oh, I met him. Oh, I had a night with him. Oh, yeah. Leonardo DiCaprio's house. I was driving through the Hollywood Hills with him, listening to some Eminem. Just so much fun. My kids will watch Titanic, and I was like, oh, I was at his house. It's just so fun. There's so many great fun memories and experiences that I would have never been able to experience without being in the magazine. So I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah. How long, when you first tested, how long did it take before you found out that you got it?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. I don't think it was long. So I tested, it all happened so fast. So I tested, and probably within a week or two, everything happened pretty quickly. I feel like the longest part of it was the wait for the magazine to come out, because you literally shoot, and then 9 months later, your issue would come out, or a year later, it was booked so far in advance. And so that part was a little, the anticipation of being nude in front of the whole world, and, just waiting for something that you feel like you've waited a lifetime for. So, but the overall process, I feel like we knew ahead of time, but it just took a while for everybody else to find out.
Yeah. Wait, what month were you again? Miss what?
I was April of 2003, and then Playmate of the Year of 2004.
Okay, so let's talk about the Playmate of the Year, that whole thing. So you get so Playmate, your issue comes out, and now you're competing against 12 girls for this coveted title of Playmate of the Year. How was that experience? Was it catty? Was it supportive? Was it competitive?
I feel like it was insane, first of all. And I feel like it was incredibly competitive. In fact, I feel like you were the one that told me that I was going to get it, because there were all these rumors going around the mansion, and there was a problem with Playmate Promotions and myself. And they were really like petitioning for me to not get it. And so there was a little bit of drama on like an event that I worked, and they did not want me to get Playmate of the Year.
Just so listeners know, for Playmate of the Year, a lot of things they would take into consideration when choosing the Playmate. Hef always got final say on who got Playmate of the Year, but he would always take into consideration there would be a readers poll every year. Like every January, they would repicture every Playmate from the previous year and be like, oh, hop on playboy.com and vote for your favorite. So he would definitely take that into consideration if somebody won by a landslide. But also Playmate promotions would weigh in too, because Playmates would be hired to work all kinds of promotional parties and things. And Hef always wanted to hire somebody that he thought would be good with the press. But then Playmate promotions would like petition for who they wanted too, because they wanted the people who were like easiest to work with, right, quote unquote. But Carmella, just so you know, you won the readers poll by a landslide that year. You. So it was just like, that's true.
It was scary because we talked about the readers poll, but there was just this big drama thing that happened at one of the events. And so, like you said, you're working as like an ambassador for the company, doing all of these different promotions, events, golf tournaments, nightclub events. And I don't know where I was. It was somewhere in the Midwest, and they had some kind of contest on stage, and the girls were like pulling up their skirts. And so it was like a hot ass contest. And I took offense to it because I felt like just because I posed for Playboy and I was in the magazine and I was nude in the magazine doesn't mean that I'm going to go shake my ass in front of these like disgusting guys. I mean, it was like it was not a place that I really wanted to be. And I had kind of regretted taking the job. And, the girls were really pushing me to do it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to shake my ass and pull up my skirt on stage here. It was embarrassing. And so I said no. And so they went back and told Playmate Promotions that I was very difficult to work with.
Oh
and they were really bent out of shape about it. And so I tried to go to Playmate Promotions and tell them what happened, but I did feel like I was, not heard. And so when I won the readers poll, they went to Hef, Playmate Promotions went to Hef and said that I just don't work well on these promotions and that I shouldn't get it.
Ew.
And I was super grateful that he overrode it and was like, nope, she's getting it. And that's what it was. And, but during the time I was like, I'm going to lose this because of this job. I mean, the politics really play a role in this,
100%.
Like you said, they were really pushing for, I don't even know who they were pushing for, and then it's like, who's going out with Hef, who is kind of seen with the company as much, like that all takes part in it as well. It's like, if you're somebody that's not going out to Barfly and doing all these events, I mean, you're probably not going to make, he wanted somebody that's, involved in promoting Playboy in the name. And I felt like there were some girls that just shot and did their centerfold and then they were nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I did my part in that way. Like I genuinely enjoyed going out. And for me, it was, during my early college years, I didn't go away to college. And for me, it was like a sorority house. Like I loved being there. Like I loved being with all of the girls. Like it was such an exciting time. And I feel like I developed so many friendships that are just so amazing. The other day, I saw a photo that somebody had posted on Instagram, and we were all on the red carpet for the AFI Awards for George Lucas. Mm-hmm. And Destiny and I are holding hands, and I literally started bawling.
Oh,
and I
that's so sweet.
And I was like, oh my gosh, we've been holding hands since we were 20. Like literally.
Aww.
Like she held my hand on the red carpet at 20 years old. She held my hand at 39 when I fell apart. Like she's always been there. So these friendships that have come out of this are just, they're irreplaceable. They're so meaningful and so important to me. So I think that's the best part of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's such a sweet story.
Yeah. Okay. So she's still here.
How did you find out you got Playmate of the Year?
I swear, Bridget, I feel like you told me that.
Okay, even if I told you, it was probably unofficial. Well, how did you find out, like, officially?
Bridget unofficially told me because we were talking about all the drama, and she was like, "You were like, no, you're getting it."
Well, because you used to, not just you, but a lot of people. My room was the room to come and like hang out in, and I remember you coming in all the time and going, "I need to vent about this thing." You would like tell us about all this drama that was going on, or things that were happening and stuff. So, but like, how did you officially find out?
I'm trying to think if I can even recall like the official call. Like, was it from half? I would assume it was probably from half. It was, I remember it was December because I was just about to get a puppy. And then I found out and I was thinking, is this the best idea to be getting a puppy when I'm going to be traveling the world right now? And, so I still did it. I still got the dog, but yeah, so I think it was December, and it was Half that called and told me. And it's just such a surreal experience. Like, I'm like, is this really, really happening?
Yeah. We have to go into like the prizes involved because I know a lot of the listeners are really interested in all that. But before, I wanted to ask you, were you excited to get the bunny necklace? Was that like a thing for you, or did you not care about the bunny necklace?
I was excited to get the bunny necklace. To me, it was iconic and just a really cool thing to have that, you know, not everybody can have. And I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, because I just know I was so excited to get my bunny necklace.
Yes.
Like, I felt like it made me official. I was like,
totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally. It does. It makes you official, and it's just something. It was such a, I don't want to say a goal, but it did. It just made it real.
Yeah.
We have to talk about your Playmate of the Year dress too, because it was so pretty.
Oh my gosh, those were the days. Rodeo Drive. I think I'm pretty sure I shopped with you guys for the dress, right?
I remember shopping with you. Yeah.
Yeah. We went to
and
Barachi.
I remember them being anti that we took you to Barachi.
Oh, that's right. They were upset but I mean, they made the most stunning gowns. Like, Barachi was the look. Like it was their crystals, everything. In fact, they made my wedding dress.
I remember that.
It was so pretty.
Yes.
I love your wedding dress. I still love your wedding dress. Like, I don't even feel like it's aged. Like, I would wear that tomorrow.
Well, I cut it up, so.
Oh, no!
I look back now and I'm like, what was I thinking? I totally cut it up and I used it for like baby bedding or something. But I'm like, the thing was like $20,000. I'm like, how did I cut up this dress? But it was the most like beautiful gown I had ever owned, and the Playmate of the Year, same. It was so pretty, and it was totally fitting. It was pink and just completely blinged out, and I just loved it.
Yeah. So I remember the night before your Playmate of the Year. I don't even know if I should talk about this, but the night before your Playmate of the Year party, you were at the mansion, of course, as you have to be because it's such an early morning the next day. But that night we were going out and we met you in the dining room and we gave you like a basket of like presents that we had gotten you for Playmate of the Year.
Oh, I think it was a photo album, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like the custom sheets, the pink satin sheets that said like Playmate of the Year with a bunny head. But the gifts aren't the thing. But I was so wanting you to come out with us that night because there was like drama going on in the house, like big time drama. And that night, shit hit the fan at the club.
It did.
Oh no.
And
did I go?
No, because you had to be up so early the next morning.
That's right. It was like a 5 a.m. wake up for like, that's right, hair and makeup and everything.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, not that things would have been different if you were there, but I remember thinking that, I wish Carmella was there. I wish you had been there that night.
Oh, I would have probably been in jail. Like I probably would have been in jail. It's a good thing I wasn't there. I went there a few times.
Yeah, well.
So what happened? I can't remember.
It was like the biggest explosion between like the Mean Girls and myself. No. Did you have any trouble with people at the mansion? Like the girlfriends or anything or other playmates, or did everybody pretty much did you get along with everybody?
I felt like I got along with everybody, and it was in the very beginning, I wasn't close at all with some of the earlier girlfriends. But I feel like that was so short lived. Like they were in and out, and then the most of the years that I spent up there, it was just with the three of you. And then Playmates, there's not anybody that, you know, it was competitive during the Playmate of the year, but other than that, like there was no one that I didn't get along with. But I mean, it was like a sorority. It was so awesome. I remember thinking for myself how normal life felt, which was opposite of what it really was. But I think living up there and staying, you know, because I moved into the bunny house after the time that I stayed through all the shooting and everything. I moved into the bunny house across the street, and life seemed so normal. Like I would get up, I'd walk the grounds. It's like, you can eat whatever you want. You've got, you know, you go tanning, you work out, it just seemed like a very normal situation, which I know outside looking in is probably the exact opposite of what it looks like, but it was comfortable.
Oh, you talk about eating whatever you want and working out and tanning and all that kind of stuff. Talk a little bit about how you felt with all of that kind of stuff. Like, did you feel like you had to diet or exercise or look a certain way, or did you feel like really under the gun with that kind of thing?
Yeah, I had a unique situation. So in going out to LA and being so nervous, I started to lose a lot of weight. And it was between my Playmate shoot and my Playmate of the year. And that was the other reason that it almost got pulled from me. I started to lose a lot of weight, and it was just a product of being anxious. I was anxious and, you know, probably not sleeping much and traveling everywhere and just having a lot on my plate. And I lost some weight, and Pat Lacey would have me fly out from Cleveland, get on a scale. And if I didn't make weight, I'd have to get on a scale naked. And if I didn't make weight, then they'd send me back home. So It was, I had to gain, I think like 8 to 10 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a little tricky for me.
Okay. So talk about your Playmate of the Year prizes, because a lot of people are really interested in like what they got, and especially the cars and stuff. So you get $100,000. Yeah,
$100,000, which was absolutely amazing. The bunny necklace, which I so looked forward to having. And then I got a Mazda. I can't remember what it was. It was like a little sports car and a motorcycle. And I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I'm not huge into sports cars, and I don't ride a motorcycle. So I ended up selling them back to the dealership and then buying something that I was living in the snow at the time. I was back and forth to Cleveland. So I bought something that was just more practical.
That makes sense. Are there other prizes too that I'm not aware of? What else comes with it?
So just the whole, working with Playmate Promotions, you had the opportunity to just earn so much money at the time. I mean, I took advantage of it. Like I traveled, I remember in 2004, 6 to 11 flights a week. I never hit under 6.
Whoa.
I was sleeping on airplanes. I started working for WWE at the time, and I was all over the place. I'm like, I'm only young once. I'm going to, capitalize off of this. And I worked every single event that I could.
That's amazing. And then correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Holly and I already talked about this. You did not get a cover for your Playmate of the Year. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm still upset. I'm still upset to this day. I was on covers of like Playmate Review, but it's not the same, right? It's like to be on the cover of Playboy was like, it was so important to me. And I want to say there was like an editor change, maybe in New York. And that at the time, I think they got like the editor that was like a former Maxim editor. And so they changed the policy for maybe like 4 or 5 years. And they felt that the Playmate of the Year should not grace the cover, that it should be a current celebrity. And so at the time, I think it was Charisma Carpenter.
Well, then let's talk about the WWE, because so many people have questions about that. So many people are writing in like, what is the Carmella WWE Divas? Let's talk about that. Tell me everything.
I want to redo that.
How did that even come about? Did you have aspirations to do
no
wrestling?
Same thing. It was an open call. It was an open call in some rando city. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go be a wrestler. So I decided I was going to try out. Again, it was a process that went, the actual competition didn't go quick because it was week after week, but I quickly went through the interview process. And I think because I was like the reigning Playmate of the Year, it stood out. And they kind of, utilized that during the show as well. And so for me, the experience was horrible. Like, talk about competition. At least the girls with Playboy were nice. These girls were fucking brutal. Brutal.
Oh, no.
Like, they were so terrible. It's like, this is all at that point. Like, most of that is scripted. Like, everything that we do there, it's like, you go for a show 8 hours before a show. You're like, you stick to your scripts. Like, it's, that's the way that it is. They would carry it to the locker room. I would walk in the locker room. They were calling me a slut, a skank, like every nasty name that they could. And it was, they were so ruthless.
I remember it was on TV. One of the other girls competing, like, called you like really foul names. And it was like, that's fucked up. Like, it's not cool.
Yeah, it was fucked up. They were so nasty and it was not scripted. Were there things that were scripted? Yes. Like, I was kind of like cast to play the villain. So, I said some nasty, horrible things that were, it was scripted, but it just didn't stop when you got off the stage. Like, you'd go back in the locker room and they're in there just like talking shit to you, talking shit about you. And I'm like, this is just not like, it's not right. And I think it got to a point where I was just like, hey, like, I'm good. Like, I'm working with Playboy. Like, I don't need this. And I think at that point, they probably had a talk with some of the girls, but I remember one that owned a modeling agency in LA. She was awful. Like, she was not a nice person at all. She was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of like, I don't watch wrestling now, but I feel like that kind of stuff wouldn't fly today just because like some of the stuff they were saying, it was like just really like slut shamey, like women hating stuff.
Oh yeah. It was, they said every nasty name that they could call me. And it was so awkward too, because you're walking in this locker room and they're all talking about you and you're walking in and you hear it all. And it's like, well, what am I supposed to say? It's like one against like 12 people. It was the most uncomfortable, just uneasy. And I'm like, I don't need this. Like, I didn't need the money at that point. But I wanted to be, I wanted to work. And even after, I wanted to continue working for WWE, because once the contest portion was done, then it was fun. And I actually liked the winner. The winner was nice. It was Christy Hemme. She was great, but the rest of them were awful. And the only time that any of them were nice was when it got down to like the final three and they didn't have their like backup bitches like with them on the side, they weren't pro. I'm very much like, I'm not a hater. Like, there's room for all of us at the finish line. And I love my girlfriends, and it's like, you stick up for your girlfriends, you don't go against them like that. It was high school shit.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of what Bridget and I went through with the Mean Girls. Is like, there would be nights we would go out and those girls would just say rude, mean things about us, but they'd say it just enough under their breath. So like Hef couldn't hear, but like, we can't do anything about it. Cause if we like react, Hef is going to be like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was such a hard thing to navigate.
Yeah, it's tough when people, and it's like, what happened to you, like as a kid, to make you like that? Like what, who did what to you? Like to be that level of nasty, it just, there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's necessarily anything that happened to them as a kid. I just think that there's something out there that makes women very competitive against each other. And it's one of the things that I liked about Playboy, even before I even went there and after the Mean Girl era, not during the Mean Girl era, but I like that it seems so positive, and I felt like the girls were there for each other, and there's a lot of friendships there that are still there.
Right. And I think it taught us as young women how to like be a good friend, and I feel like I learned so much from that, and I'm so appreciative to have that experience because we were so supportive of each other. And I feel like that carried through in life. And that's how I am today with the girlfriends that I have. It's like, I don't have a ton, but the ones that I do have, they're great friends, and you take care of your friendships, and that's what you do. You support each other. You're there for each other through thick and thin. And that's how it should be. I just don't understand. I've never been jealous in the way. Have I been jealous in life? Of course. Like, oh, it's like, I wish I could be Carmen Electra in that photo shoot because she's like stunningly beautiful. I'm not jealous in a mean way. And there are too many people that are like that. And it just doesn't, why? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think our show in a lot of ways tried to play that, like, especially with me, they tried to make it look like I was jealous of the Playmates and that kind of thing. But like you just said, it's exactly that. I'm not jealous of the Playmates. I'm happy for them. I'm happy what they got and and I'm supportive of all that and everything. I just want to do it too.
Right.
I want to be there too.
Right.
You talked a little bit about it, but tell us about living at the Mapleton house.
It was fun. It was just every part of it was so much fun. I liked staying at the mansion better, obviously, but it was like being in college and just having automatic friends and having a bad day. You could go back to the house and there's always somebody there. I remember having surgeries and going back to the house and being able to, recover and have people there and just the friendships. And it was incredible. It was such an experience that, it's an experience that you just don't, it's limited for sure.
That was a nice era, the whole like bunny house era when like you guys were over there. Like that was a really nice stretch of time.
I loved it. I loved my time there. I'm like, if I could go back.
Yeah, for sure. And then we got to go to your wedding.
Oh, that was so much fun. I was so happy and thankful that you guys were able to come out. We had such a fun time.
Well,
that
was such a major feat for us to be able to do that, for Hef to allow us to do that.
It really was.
He didn't let us go to Tiffany's wedding.
I totally remember
we
that.
were banned.
I didn't think that he was going to let you guys go to mine. And I was so happy that you were able to make it. It was so funny. Best time dancing. It was so much fun.
We went with Sarah, the makeup artist, and we were all staying in a room together and we got really drunk. And in the middle of the night, we thought it would be so funny to call the concierge and ask for a tambourine just to see if they could come up with one. And did they, Bridget? I don't remember.
I feel like they did. Am I crazy?
Either I have like a reconstructed drunk memory, but I feel like we got the tambourine.
Because I remember us jumping on the beds and like,
yeah, with the tambourine,
like dancing around. And then somebody came and got us with a golf cart and said, "No, you guys, Carmella wants you back at the wedding right now."
So we came back to the reception in our pajamas. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you did come in your pajamas. I totally remember that. You came in your pajamas.
Well, not initially, not initially.
We came back, yeah.
Yeah, we came back in our pajamas and finished out the rest of the reception.
It was so much fun. It was a blast. I don't think I ate a thing. I was so drunk. It was such a blast.
It was so fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Do you still talk to a lot of the Playmates?
Not a bunch, but some, yes. Destiny and I are super, super close. She's to this day one of my best friends. But yeah, I exchanged messages with Jenny Walcott a couple days ago. Just kind of random, Christmas cards and.
Yeah. Do you talk to any of the staff at all?
No, I haven't talked to the staff in years, but I loved hanging with them. And I know that was like the one rule. It's like we were not allowed, or they were not allowed to fraternize with us, but I would sneak down like every night and hang with them at like 1:00 in the morning. I would sneak down and I would hang with them because it made me feel close to home. Like they were so normal and so just down to earth. And it made me feel not so homesick. And so I loved hanging with them.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean about that. What do you think is the last mansion party you went to? When was it?
So the last one that I went to was not that long ago. I want to say like 6-7 years ago they threw one, but it was not the same. It had to be a midsummer.
Wait, was it? Okay, I think I went to that one that Cooper threw.
I think it was, and it just was not at all like what a mansion party was. You could just tell at that point, Playboy had changed so much. I mean, during the early 2000s, Playboy was everything. Like it was everyone who was anyone wanted to be at the Playboy Mansion. Like I'm sure you remember his 80th. Like it was like Donald Trump, 50 Cent, Anna Nicole. I mean, everyone was there. It was the look. Everybody wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to be in the magazine. They wanted to be at the parties. Like Playboy was everything at that point. And then I don't know at what point things started like to fall apart, but then just like the wheels fell off. Like when was that?
I think I know. Well, actually, I do know exactly when things fell off with the parties. Like I never went to any of the later ones, so I know it probably wound down even more from there. But I know when it happened, it was late 2008 because when we were still all living there, me, Bridget, and Kendra, you know, the Midsummer Night's Dream in 2008 was amazing. And then I told Hef I was moving out, but I moved down to bedroom 5 to stay there while I was just finishing scenes for Girls Next Door. And Bridget had left to go shoot her Beaches show, and Kendra was leaving. But we all went to the Halloween party that year, Halloween 2008. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be fun. I'm going to get to go back to a mansion party. Because I'd been to them before I was a girlfriend, but it'd been so long. I'm like, I'm going to go to a mansion party and I get to run around and I get to see everybody. I'm not just sitting at the table with Hef. So I thought it would be fun, but I quickly realized not at all, because everybody all of a sudden had a cell phone with a camera. Because back when I started going to parties, nobody had cameras on their phones, and you weren't allowed to bring a camera. They were confiscated and you were kicked out if you were caught taking a picture. So it was so private. Celebrities wanted to come.
Right.
But now the privacy is gone. And I think that was the first party they started selling tickets to Hef's parties. So there were cabanas set up that people were like renting out. It wasn't just his exclusive guest list anymore. So that was the party where everything went downhill. And I remember walking around at that party. I couldn't go 2 steps without people asking for a picture. It was miserable. And I thought, I never need to come to one of these parties again. Things have changed.
I totally remember that, because I feel like I went to that party and it was so odd for me, because to see you not with Hef, like to see you as just like being yourself, like at a party. And, you know, it was just completely separated. But yeah, you're right. They started selling tickets. And it used to be so difficult to get in, even for girls. Like, I mean, I had to submit pictures. If I brought girlfriends, which I commonly did from Ohio, I had to submit full body photos of them. And he went through each and every photo and approved, you know, the girls. And so I do remember when they started selling tickets, and it just became so, you know, you're right, not private at that point.
And it was so crowded. I remember I was with like Sarah Underwood and Brittany Binger, and we couldn't walk 2 steps without getting separated. It was just so fucking crowded.
Yeah, that sucks.
Did you go to the mansion at all after we left?
I feel like that was the last party that I went to. So it might have been like, not the one that Holly was at, but I feel like the last one that I went to, I feel like you were gone by that point. So it was only like, I don't know, maybe like 6 years ago.
Yeah, no, but I mean, did you like hang out at the mansion after we were gone?
No, I
like go to dinners and stuff.
I was married. I started having babies right away, and I was life had changed. I mean, dramatically. Talk about one change from coming from Ohio, landing at LAX, having this whole life at the Playboy Mansion, and then traveling 6 to 11 flights a week. And then just boom, it was all done. I settled down, got married, had a bunch of kids. I mean, I'm like an all or nothing person. It just goes from one extreme to the next.
Yeah.
That's a full life. I love it.
I know. I do too. Do you miss the mansion?
Do I miss it? Yeah, I do. I miss it. Sometimes I feel like I've lost my identity. And I'm sure, like, Holly, I'm sure you can relate. It's like when I was younger, I was selfish. You know, I was selfish, but I was fun. And I had a blast. And it's like you become a mom and you have to become selfless. And I feel like I live my life for everybody else. Like I'm constantly taking care of everybody, which I love. I'm not complaining about it. I absolutely love it. But I'm always trying to fix a problem. You know, it's like, that's my mission every day. And so when the kids were little, I feel like I went from this like bombshell playmate, living the life, to just like diapers and bottles and throw up. And like, I completely lost myself. And then once the kids got to like kindergarten, the last one went to kindergarten, I had to go back to work, because I'm like, I need to be somebody other than mom for a second, and I need to talk to adults. And I felt like I needed that healthy balance. I love my kids more than life. I would do anything for them. But even though I'm so busy with them, I still keep a job and keep myself busy because I have to remember who Carmella is. And
that's good for your kids too.
It's good for them. It's a really good balance. But of course I miss the mansion. I miss the parties. I miss being able to see my girlfriends. I mean, I'll pop in, I'll meet Destiny for an hour or whatever. And then I'm like, I got to run to a kid's football game or whatever. So it's like we do it, but it's short stints. And so I probably need to do more of that.
What about Hef? Do you miss Hef?
I didn't have a super close relationship with him. I was grateful to him for not getting impatient with me and not just saying, forget you. I was grateful that he gave me the opportunity and was patient while I was indecisive. So for that, I am forever grateful because I wouldn't have had all of the opportunities that I had or probably be where I am today. So, but I didn't have a close personal relationship with him. So that's pretty much it on that front.
Yeah. You I don't know how many Playmates were invited to his funeral, if any, but were you invited?
I was not. Yeah. We just weren't close in that way. We, like I said, he was always very kind to me. He was always very patient. But I kind of wasn't so much, my time spent there was more with the girls.
Yeah.
That's the best time.
Yeah, it's the best.
I know. I'm like, that's where it was anyway. The best part of the mansion.
Yeah. I'm not, like I said, I'm forever grateful for the opportunity because I know that I wouldn't have gotten to experience so many things. So I am really grateful. But yeah, we just didn't have a close relationship like that.
Well, what would you say was your best memory at the mansion or best experience?
Hands down, the Playmate of the Year luncheon and party. To be able to have a day, there's not another day ever that's all about you. It's like you get married and your wedding is like, it becomes about everybody else. Like it's a drama fest and everything that goes with that, right? And it's a lot of work. You have your kids and it now becomes about your children. It was one day that was completely about me. And it was so amazing, surreal. It was everything. I mean, the luncheon, it's so stunningly beautiful. The production, the setup, and then they have these huge blown up pictures. It was such an honor. I was so honored to be a part of Playboy and the magazine and all of it. And just to meet so many wonderful people along the way. I mean, I just received so many gifts that were so incredible. So that day was awesome. And then the party that night, on Sunset over at, I think it was at Sky Bar. It was so rad. Like we had so much fun, and to walk in there and feel like I'm Playmate of the Year. I remember Cuba Gooding Jr. coming up to me at that party and being like, "Hey, I like your work." And I'm like, did Cuba Gooding Jr. just tell me he likes my work? I'm like, he's like,
I love that.
Like, superstar. And it felt so incredible.
That's amazing. I just had a picture in my head, and I just remembered, and Holly and I have talked about this before, but after the parties, we used to have to go up when Hef wanted to go up. So it was usually kind of early in the party days. Yeah. And then we would get in our pajamas and we'd stand on the balcony by my bedroom and we would like yell down to everybody. Aww. And I remember you came up and joined us before, and we would we'd see all these drunk people like trying to leave, and we would be like yelling at them and be like, Tiffany! And they don't know where it's coming from. So they're like looking around and we're laughing. Tiffany!
So much fun. So much fun. I love coming up and just hanging with you guys. And to me, my most favorite part were the friendships, just meeting girls and having the most amazing friendships. And it just was so much fun. Like I literally felt so loved, and we had the best of times. Even just chilling in the rooms. Like we had such a fun time.
Yeah, I agree.
I miss it. Like we need our girl time.
I know, but we'll all go do something now. We'll go do something. We'll get Destiny and we'll go do. But one other thing I was thinking, after the WWE, I know this is going back, sorry, but I just had this thought. After the WWE, it was like a contest, right?
Right.
And then after that, did you just like not do anything anymore, or how?
No, I did I was still doing a lot of promotions at that point and still doing some print work. I did in 2007, I did the calendar cover for Maxim, and then I would do all the promotions for that. So I would get booked on all of like the nightclub events. I still did a lot in Vegas. I worked at Caesar's Palace. I did the print campaign for Pure Nightclub. So I was doing I was doing all their billboards and like all their, the magazine, like 944 and all the ads and stuff. So I was still doing a lot of, print for companies in Vegas and for Maxim. And I think I did a cover for OIE. I did a cover for Fitness RX. So I did a lot of print and so it was a whirlwind. I mean, I look back and it's like, it feels like another lifetime.
Yeah. I was just curious because I wanted to make sure we covered that fully because I know I just saw so many people asking questions about the WWE and I felt like I remember her doing it, but I just don't really remember how that went down or what it all was.
It was tough. And I wish that I would have continued to work for them because I do love the company. Like I did like working for them. I just didn't like how aggressive the contest was. But even after that, there was a guy that I met up at the mansion who was kind of like an agent, right? And it really, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to, it really kind of screwed me up with WWE because even though I was the runner up, they offered me a contract. And so here I have this like big name agent that's, coming up to the Playboy Mansion. He was a friend of Hef's and he was like, oh, I'll represent you. And I was like honored to be represented by this guy. Well, he started having conversation with WWE and was asking for like triple the contract that they were offering me. And they were at that point just like, see you later, like done. Like we're not dealing with this. Like it was very just like prima donna and they didn't want to deal with it. And for them, I mean, pretty girls are a dime a dozen, just like Playboy, and so they were just on to the next. And so I was always super disappointed because I really did like the company and I loved working for them, just not the competition part. So I kind of feel like that was where one thing that didn't go in my favor because without that, I do think I would have signed and continued working with them. But this guy was like such a hard ass and was like, no, she's the current Playmate of the Year. It's going to be, this amount of money. And they were just like, see you later. So I feel like he really burned the bridge for me there. But
that sucks.
It all, everything happens for a reason. And
yeah, for sure.
But I did like working with them.
What would you say is like the weirdest memory you have or like the most WTF?
I think it was that night where the girls were fighting.
Oh, you know why I didn't remember the story when you first told it is when you said going at it. I thought you meant like fucking in the club.
No, they were like.
That's why I was like, wait, I don't remember that. I just must have been tuned out because I didn't like
they were
them.
so fighting.
Like, literally, I think one of them hit each other.
I remember that now with bopping the heads together.
Yeah, and then Hef comes up like this, and he was like, put their heads together, and I'm like, what is going on here? TMZ is going to get this. I'm like, we're going to be on TMZ in a second. Like, there's a red rope here. Like, you can't do that.
There's a red rope.
There's a red rope.
One of those girls,
disposable camera thing.
Yeah, one of those girls would kind of get violent with the other girls sometimes.
I think they hit each other,
hands
like,
on.
In front of all, and I'm not kidding. All these people are staring at us, and one of them like hit each other, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, I thought the two of them were friends, and Hef was so angry. I mean, he just like put their heads together, and like the look on his face, he was like, "Urgh," and I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
He should have got rid of them that day.
Oh, I think it
would have saved us a lot of trouble.
I think he sent them packing like quickly after that. Like I think the next morning, either one or both might have moved out. I don't know.
For
totally.
Sure. Anything else that I missed, Holly?
I don't think so. Carmella, this was such a good episode.
Oh,
thank you so much for coming on.
I'm so grateful to come on. This was so much fun and so good to reconnect. I think it's been almost 20 years. It's been way, way, way too long.
Yeah, way too long.
Wait, it can't be 20 years because that was before we even started doing the show.
Well, I'm thinking 04 was my Playmate of the year. So what are we, 22? So 18 since I've been up there, like maybe 7.
Well, you know what? It was 2002 when they did Who Wants to Be a Playboy Playmate.
Yeah, I think the last
20 years.
Was like 05 when you guys were there, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, 20 years that since we like first met you, but like not since we last saw you.
Yeah, since I've seen you, maybe 15. Yeah, 15 years.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
We need to do something fun, like really fun. Need to get
we got to find a day where we can all get together.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you, ladies. It's great
Thank
to
you so
see
much,
you.
Carmella. This is
Good
so
to
amazing.
see you.
Awesome. We'll catch up soon.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
For more content, be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/girlsnextlevel.